There now follows an election broadcast on behalf of the Labour Party.
The Conservative message in this election is really very simple. Everything's all right. There's nothing to worry about. Leave it to us. To get this message across, they've spent millions of pounds, hired advertising agencies, paid actors to appear on posters, had hand-picked street interviews, the whole apparatus of advertising normally used for selling soap or detergents or washing powders or toothpaste. But in our hearts, we know this picture of Britain is not true.
Now, there's no point in beating about the bush any longer. We've got to face facts, and face facts now. This country is... we import has been widening for the last 15 months, and the very latest figures show that this gap is growing faster and faster. This is a crisis which affects every single one of us. If the present trend continues, it will mean that our jobs, our wages, our higher purchase payments, our mortgage rates are all in jeopardy. Now, I know that Mr. Maudling half denies it, but then the Tory leaders denied that there was a crisis in... But the situation today is far more serious than either of those examples. All of us in Britain, and especially the Conservatives, must face this fact, for until we do, there is no hope of our being able to do anything about it. However, what is even more worrying than the economic situation itself is the fact that the Conservatives still pretend that nothing is really the matter, and that nothing should be done. Conservative leaders for the next government, whichever party it is, will have to pay very dearly indeed for this mistake. There is one overriding reason why we are now faced with this crisis. The Conservatives, throughout their 13 years, have refused to plan. Our roads, houses, schools, hospitals are utterly inadequate for this reason. And abroad, we are falling behind the other industrial countries. Tonight, I want to show you not only what is wrong, but also, and this is far more important, how the Labour government will plan the new Britain.
Examples of bad planning are not hard to find. Look around you at the long delays, frustrating waits. All our cities seem to be jammed with cars. And it's the same on holiday too. Long waits, heavy lorries on the roads, many of them dangerous, no transport planning here. Motorway construction, too slow and badly planned as well. Wielded by Dr. Beeching. Hundreds of stations to be closed, thousands of miles of line that could have played a useful part in economic development. No social costing here, just pounds, shillings and pence. And for those people who really could be fitted into new towns, a government failure to plan ahead. Mr. Henry Brooke, the minister responsible. Those who are looking for homes in our new towns find the same signs everywhere. Offices to be let, to be let, to be let. It's the same with education. Some beautiful new comprehensive schools built, but many are. All this could have been anticipated if someone had looked ahead. The worst example are old industrial areas, worst victims of stop and go, left to decay. And only last year, 800,000 men out of work because of stop and go, bad planning once again.
What has happened in Scotland during these past 13 years? We've seen Scotland become a land of diminishing opportunity. In 13 Tory years, we've lost 370,000 people. They've left Scotland, mainly young men of talent, skill and craft, crowding in to the already overcrowded south and the cost of these opportunities. Between 1951 and 1963, there wasn't an increase in jobs in Scotland for men and for boys. There was an actual decrease of 33,000 at a time when the Tories boast of having created 1 million new jobs in Britain for men. The actual facts are stark, they're grim for Scotland. Thanks to Labour government's planning, they were able to build 39,000 houses. Last year it was down to 28,000. A loss over these years to Scotland of 100,000 much-needed houses. Their social policies and their employment policies have been such as to deny us what we think are our rights in respect of employment and social conditions. The new Britain under a Labour government.
Wales, with all her magnificent potential, has not been able to develop her own resources or take her full part in the British economy in the last 13 years. Under Tory planning, we've had uncontrolled expansion in the south and a slow, steady, tragic drift of young people shortage of jobs in Wales. It is indeed another form of unemployment. Now, can we reverse this migration? I'm convinced that we can, under the Labour plans, to induce industrialists to come to Wales, to improve our transport system, and Mr. Marples has been in reverse and has chosen Wales as one of the places the Secretary of State for Wales, a voice at last in the cabinet of Great Britain.
The policy of stop and go has also had a serious effect on British industry. With me are two men who are actually concerned with running large business firms. One of them is a chairman, the other a managing director.
Whether he accepts the term or not. And we managers have to predict the future of the economy so that we can order our investment plans for increased expansion and all the rest of it. Now, if there's no government plan, and particularly if the government is stop, go, our plans are nearly always wrong. But if there's a broad industrial plan, we've a much
I mean, the 50s have proved we've been fumbling with the management of the economy. And I think industry, both employers and trade unions, deserve some credit in trying to persuade the Tories of the importance of planning in a reliable and steady way. We have got to do our jobs, have a framework in which you can get on serving the community, making a fair profit if you do it that way. But the one thing that we
cooperate with you. Is that your experience?
Those who say that are political scaremongering. I don't think many say it, because A manager's job is to make his business prosperous and to optimize output and all the rest of it. Well, is it conceivable that a manager would ruin his own business because he didn't like the political complexion of the government?
That politics affect their business decisively. And this is the first point. I think the second point is that industry's job is to work with the government of the day to serve the community and the national interest. And I believe that industry is going to try to do that, but to do it, it must be sure that the strategic objectives are going to be firm and firmly supported by a government that believes
Make no mistake, without change, without modernization, we can't get the expansion we need to carry out those programs which are put before you. Now, which party do you think will change all this? Labour, which created the health service, fought steadily for the welfare state, or the Tories, who fought against that and now grudgingly talk of giving donations? Plans to secure this real incomes policy? Where are the plans to control land prices, to control profits? Where are the plans for tax reforms to stop fiddling? Where are the plans to modernize and energize British industry? There are none. And without planning, without change, the Conservatives clearly couldn't possibly carry out any of their specious ground to the other industrial countries in the world simply because we are so inefficiently led. Since the beginning of this year, more people have started working. That should have meant more production, but it hasn't. The Labour government will reverse this trend. We cannot just trust to luck and hope that things will turn out well in the end. The last 13 years have shown we can hope to have a pretty garden just by sitting back and watching the weeds come up. But efficiency isn't everything, and it would be a dull and stodgy country if it were. We shall also plan to increase prosperity in order that everyone, not just a few privileged people, can get a fair share of the increased wealth that this country can produce. We shall ensure that the land speculators do not grow rich. Do not steadily decline while the southeast is filled to overflowing. And as a consequence of doing this, the Labour government will have created the climate for a real incomes policy. Conservatives have failed to achieve this because they simply mean limiting wages and salaries. They refuse to deal with profits, with dividends, rents, with land prices. Labour's incomes policy without which no incomes policy can succeed. Once we have got a comprehensive national plan, then we shall be able to ensure the steady expansion of the economy which is so essential for our increased prosperity. The Conservatives accept the state that this country is in as being inevitable, and indeed they appeal to you not to change it. But we know successful industrial country in the world. And with a Labour government and with your active participation, it will be. Britain has the skills and the experience as well as the capacity for work to succeed in our task. Getting Britain moving again, we must get rid of all the tired complacency. Britain You decide on October the 15th for a change, then together we can get on with the job.
That was an election broadcast on behalf of the Labour Party.